Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a tough draft. Really hope you had a great weekend. Of course, it is Sunday night. You know what that means. We are firing up a new real money fantasy football draft like we do every single night. So if you play fantasy football, make sure you don't only go down there and drop a like on this video. Make sure you also subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out early. Join us for these live streams. Hop into these drafts with us. And here we're going to be selecting at the 107. Now, this is going to be a private draft among some of the sharpest drafters that you're going to have to go up against. These are going to be people a part of the flock. We got Caden out here at the 102, Uncle Trey, Lucky 67. I'm sure y'all have seen a ton of these names. OBS Destroyers. Haven't had a draft with him in a while, but it's brutal going up against him. Same thing here with Cheeky Hobson. We got Zach out here. So many names. Thank you all for coming out to this draft with us. Thank you for hanging out with us this Sunday night. I am looking forward to crushing you. I am looking forward to putting together the best draft out of everyone here. And if you are the one person left on this planet that has not heard me say this 5 million times now, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy. By far and away, the best place you can get your real money fantasy football drafts underway this upcoming season. And hell, you can still do your regular draft on ESPN, Yahoo, whatever you want. Get some practice drafts in on Underdog Fantasy. And when you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's free for you to check out. You're getting paid to play fantasy football. And you will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, nearly 30 pages of super high quality information with just a $10 deposit. And dear God, I made a massive mistake, ladies and gentlemen. I set this to be a 10-hour draft. So what I need to ask from everyone, please, if you are in this draft, do not take all 10 hours. Okay, let's keep this down to 30 seconds. I may have to go ahead, set up a new draft room. We may have to set this up. Oh, I made a massive mistake. But hopefully these people in this draft forgive us and they make their picks in a timely manner. But Stefon Diggs at pick 7. Guys, you're going to see a lot of Stefon Diggs round 1 from me this year. I understand maybe in a vacuum, yes, you tell me, Mason, you're a clown. You need to go ahead. You need to take Austin Eckler here. Austin Eckler is a much better player than Stefon Diggs for fantasy football. My issue is if you look at the wide receivers versus running backs that are going to be available in the second round, I definitely think that we are going to prefer the running backs in this range in the second round. Now, Eckler goes off the board, and you know what I'm going to do? Just so we don't run into a disaster in round 4, round 5, I'm going to set up a new draft board with a 30-second timer, and I'm going to send that 30-second timer out here for everybody to participate in this draft. We're going to create a private draft just for people part of the live stream. I apologize for wasting your time. I apologize for making this take a little bit longer than it would. We'll just do a $3 draft real quick, sending out the link now. So hell, if you've signed up for an Underdog Fantasy, you can hop in these drafts with us like we've been saying for so long. It's labeled $3 draft, and I just spammed it out in the live chat. I'd imagine this gets filled in about 5 seconds, considering we already have 200 people out here. But let's slide this back over, watch this fill. And again, I apologize for wasting your time, for taking it up, having to restart this draft. But we'll see what we're picking here. Rain coming out says, it's been a while, my friend. Hope you're doing well and keep up the high quality content. Can't wait to watch this banger. Thank you, my man, for coming out to the live stream. Hopefully you were able to get in this draft with us. Dion says, when is the cutoff for the 2022 draft guide? I used your code a month ago on Underdog. Okay, so if you used our code a month ago, I'm sure that you were able to get our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. I apologize. That promo did update where now, first-time depositors with promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, instead of getting our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, they just get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Now, if you loved our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, which I'm sure you did, you can also find our draft guide available on flockfantasy.com. And if you use promo code or coupon code FLOCK with any purchase on flockfantasy.com, you will get an exclusive discount. But it looks like here we're going to be drafting at the 101 in this draft. We have a couple other sharp drafters out here. OBS Destroyers out here. Flock it up, my dude made it. Rio, we got Why Not Us. TP the Kid's been out here pretty much every single draft with us this week. Should be a brutal one. Obviously, we're going to go Jonathan Taylor at pick 1. And my draft strategy will be a little bit different here compared to what y'all have seen in those tournament drafts. I'm not necessarily just going to be going for highest ceiling possible, highest ceiling possible, highest ceiling possible. I do think we need to go ahead. We need to try to strike a nice balance. I apologize for everyone about that other draft. Like I said, that's on me. 100% my fault. I will not make that mistake again. But Dion coming out says, oh no, we already answered that from Dion. Dion says, I finally got in one. Let's go. This is my first time. Dion, let me know where you are picking in this draft. Actually, I'm assuming that you're at pick 11. We have 4 wide receivers off the board here. We have 4 guys in Cup, Jefferson, Chase, and Stephon Diggs. Personally, I think you should be taking these wide receivers early. Like I said, I think the running backs that you're going to be looking at really in the middle of the second round are going to be fantastic. You can get an Aaron Jones. You can get a Saquon Barkley at pick 19. I think the risk that you have with Aaron Jones or Austin Eckler not working out, they're going to be comparable versus the wide receivers in round 1, like a Stephon Diggs and a Deebo Samuel. They are in 2 completely different tiers for me. But Jay Seltz coming out says he's in the 3rd spot. Okay, so he gets Cooper Kupp here at pick 3. Obviously, Cooper Kupp's almost an auto pick there at 3. Interested to see what you do after Kupp is off the board. Now, Kelsey goes at 12 to flocking up, my dude. I personally really like the idea of going ahead, taking Travis Kelsey. Looks like we are up on the clock in the 18th in our other one, so we will go ahead. We will just take someone as quick as we can. Yeah, we're going to go Aaron Jones in the other draft where we took Stephon Diggs in the 1st. Joe Mixon goes to pick 13. Y'all know I love Joe Mixon. I'm fine ranking Joe Mixon as a top 5 running back this upcoming season. Like, I'm going to be aggressively drafting Mixon based on some false narratives about him. Like, if you look at our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, you'll see from a target share perspective, Joe Mixon's averaged 9-10% of his team's target share over the past 3 years. And at the same time, over 70% of his backfield carries on a per game basis have gone to Joe Mixon. So you have to be very excited with that workload. And it does make him one of the true bell cow running backs in the NFL, as the largest offensive line upgrade that you're going to find in the NFL this season. You have to be pretty damn excited about it. Okay, so now let's go through. Pizza Killer says, so what's the main difference between Underdog Fantasy and Fantasy Leagues on Yahoo? So the main difference is these drafts on Underdog, the reason I'm able to hop into 400, 500 of these real money drafts every offseason is because you are not submitting your starting lineup through the year, and at the same time, you are not making waiver claims. So it's essentially going to be your regular fantasy football league where there's no time commitment during the season. That's why Underdog Fantasy is the best place to practice drafting for your main league this upcoming season, where you can come hop into 10 of these drafts. Because if you say, let's just use $10 as an example, if you go down, you throw down, or $15. You throw $15 into Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK, that will get doubled to 30. You can hop into 10 $3 drafts here on the live stream, in the public lobby, whatever you want to do, and have some solid practice for your other draft you really care about a little bit later on. It's great because you're not going to have teams leaving the draft halfway through. You're not going to have teams on auto. So I personally think that there's nothing you can do to be a better fantasy football player than hopping in some of these drafts on Underdog Fantasy. Now, after we take Jonathan Taylor at 1, I forgot, we are back-to-back here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take T. Higgins. And now, if you're in a tournament-style draft, I'm sure y'all saw us do this in the draft yesterday. We are going to go back-to-back wide receiver here. But given the fact that we only have to worry about the other 11 other players that we are going up against in this league, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just take Javonte Williams. I do think Javonte Williams gives us a nice floor and ceiling combination. So if we were in that one of those tournament drafts where I think wide receiver is going to be a little bit more important than if we're just going up against these 11 other guys, I would have gone ahead and I would have taken A.J. Brown over Javonte Williams. But in this one, I'm perfectly fine going Javonte at pick 25. A.J. Brown does go directly after us at pick 26. And I'm interested to see what y'all do, because usually it's almost an auto pick for me to go Patrick Mahomes at pick 48, and then George Kittle at 49, or Lamar Jackson at 48, then George Kittle at 49. Sometimes we get Darren Waller making it to us. I would be surprised if in a draft, in my opinion, with some smarter drafters, with people a part of this live stream, if we were going to be able to find that value easily at the 4 or 5 turn. We may have to go in a little bit of a different route. It may be pretty damn tough for us. Lane says, I'd be taking Javonte Williams over Saquon Barkley. Oh, my man, I can't do that. I think it's crazy to take Javonte Williams over Saquon Barkley. That's just me. I mean, if you're looking at Javonte Williams in his role that he shared this backfield with Melvin Gordon last year, where in games that they both played, Melvin Gordon averaged more carries per game, rushing yards per game, yards per carry, like fantasy points per game as well. Like, I know that's not going to be the case this upcoming season. That's why I go ahead and I take Javonte Williams at pick 25. But if Saquon Barkley is fully healthy, Saquon Barkley will be a workhorse running back. That's one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL. Last time we saw Saquon Barkley in 2019, he had a target share come close to 20%. Do you know how hard it is for a running back to come close to a 20% team target share? That is absolutely ridiculous. But here we have Mike Williams at pick 31. So, not too much to talk about. I really like the fact that we are now seeing DJ Moore ahead of Mike Williams, something that we do have it ranked that way in our draft guide. I'll be the first person to admit, yes, I have DJ Moore ranked ahead of Mike Williams in our draft guide, despite almost every single one of these drafts, Mike Williams going before DJ Moore. I've liked DJ Moore since before the Baker Mayfield trade, mainly because, like we said, there was that possibility always that you were going to get Baker over there in Carolina. But still, DJ Moore just a freaking target hog that is now going to be playing with the best quarterback of his career. And I know Baker Mayfield's not good, but the quarterbacks he's played with have been horrible. And I repeat, horrible. But now Jalen Waddle goes to pick 36. Deontay Johnson, 37. Deontay Johnson is a wide receiver that sometimes you can actually end up getting at the very end of the fourth round. Now, I'm not expecting that to happen in this draft, where I do think the competition's going to be a little bit sharper. Now, with Alvin Kamara pick 38, this is a perfect thing to talk about in terms of the differences between those tournament-style drafts you can get in on Underdog. So if you go into Best Ball Mania is going to be a $25 buy-in where it's a $10 million prize pool. And yes, first place in your 12-team league gets paid if you win. Second place in your 12-team league gets paid if you win. But a small percentage of every league pot is set aside for the massive jackpots at the end of the year for the playoff tournament in weeks 15, 16, and 17, where in that tournament-style draft, I am so excited to draft Alvin Kamara at the beginning of the fourth round because the upside he would have at the end of the year, even if he's suspended at the beginning portion of the season. But here in these private drafts that we are doing right now, it's not that same style. It's not that same setup. You don't have to worry about finding that elite level ceiling in weeks 15, 16, and 17. You're just trying to score the most points throughout the course of the season. So knowing that there is that probability that Alvin Kamara is suspended at the beginning portion of the year, while I do love drafting Alvin Kamara at the 3-4 turn in one of those tournament drafts, here it's going to be a little bit tougher when you may have to sacrifice that roster spot for 6 weeks. Yeah. Curtis says, why is Keenan Allen going before Mike Williams? My man, I would be happy to go ahead and to pull up our 2022 fantasy football draft guide to explain to you why Keenan Allen is going before Mike Williams. I honestly think that it's a draft pick that I'm making. I am personally never going to go ahead and take Mike Williams over Keenan Allen, even though I know a lot of other people are. I know a lot of people are coming out and saying, you know what, this is the year of Mike Williams. Keenan Allen's pushing 30 years old. This is when we should expect Allen to drop off. I mean, he came into the NFL in 2013. He's almost been here for a decade. We'll get to that in just 1 second. We did pull up our draft guide, but we are about to be back up on the clock. So if we're looking at our options here, oh my gosh, guys, y'all let Gabriel Davis fall 6 picks past his ADP. Y'all let Gabriel Davis fall half a round for me to be able to draft Gabriel Davis here. Y'all are fools. You have no idea what you're doing. How are you going to let me get this kind of value? Of course, we're not freaking taking Gabriel Davis. Why would I ever do that? Let's go ahead. Let's take Patrick Mahomes. And if we were in a tournament style draft, I would take a wide receiver in this range. But as we said, this is not that tournament style draft where we're trying to find elite level ceilings in weeks 15, 16, and 17 with our roster construction. It's a regular 12-team league. Regular 12-team league, you can find the same thing in our draft guide. I'm going to prefer David Montgomery over some of the wide receivers in this range. I'm going to prefer David Montgomery over Gabriel Davis. Yes, they're like 10 picks apart in ADP. Sue me. I'm going to prefer David Montgomery over Allen Robinson as well. But getting back to that question that we had regarding the 2 wide receivers in Los Angeles, specifically for the Chargers between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and why you have Keenan Allen going before Mike Williams, Let's look at the target share that Keenan Allen has commanded over the past 3 years. Keenan Allen over the past 3 years, on average, has commanded 25.5%. 25.5% of the targets on a per game basis in Los Angeles. Keenan Allen's had a yards per route run of 2 over the past 3 years. Whereas if we compare this to Mike Williams hasn't averaged a top 10 wide receiver finish over the past 3 seasons. Mike Williams instead has been closer to the wide receiver 40 on a points per game basis over the past 3 years. Don't believe me? Fine. He has a yards per route run slightly lower than Keenan Allen, and his target share on average over the past 3 years, where Keenan Allen's closing in on 25%, Mike Williams is at 16.95%. 16.95% on a per game basis. Night and day difference. Mike Williams at times has been used as the Alpha X wide receiver like we saw through the first 5 weeks here in Los Angeles. But at other times, you've seen Mike Williams be used as a vertical field stretching element to create space for Keenan Allen underneath. So I am completely fine. If you want to come out here and you want to argue, Mason, based on the vertical ability Mike Williams brings, based on how defensive coordinators need to adjust their game plan due to Mike Williams, he's a more valuable NFL wide receiver, a more valuable NFL asset than Keenan Allen. Yeah, probably. You probably have a very strong argument in that. However, if you are going to make an argument that Mike Williams is a better player in fantasy, despite Keenan Allen being the target vacuum he is, soaking up everything underneath, racking up fantasy points, there I'm probably not going to agree with you. Adam says, Mason, what is your average Chipotle order? Now, Chipotle switched up the game on us, okay? They are now charging extras for side tortillas. They got too smart on us. But before then, it was double rice, preferably white rice, double black beans, double chicken, double peppers, a lot of cheese, lettuce, pico, and the green sauce. And then 2 side tortillas. Get it in a bowl because, hell, you're going to get a lot more food that way. But sadly, they're a little bit smarter. And now I think they're charging us like 35 cents per those side tortillas. But hell, that adds up. That's an extra 70 cents on your order. Okay. But Steven says, Mason, are you less inclined to stack in a regular redraft league? Like, guys, please. I understand that we went through and we laid out the data. We showed y'all how important stacking was in fantasy football. And the data that we had, that came from underdog drafts. Now, I promise you, if I could have pulled data from ESPN, Yahoo, whatever regular redraft league you could find, I would have done it. But the issue is, with those leagues, you don't have that data because there's not the money attached to it. On Underdog Fantasy, there are millions of dollars of drafts kicked off every offseason. There'll be over 1 million drafts on Underdog Fantasy this offseason. So with that large data set, you're able to then pull and you're able to see how important stacks are. But if you think of it conceptually, when we draft Patrick Mahomes at pick 48, why is it a good idea to take other Kansas City Chiefs players later? Why is it a good idea to target Marquez Valdez-Scantling, target Sky Moore? The reason it's a good idea is because we already made a bet in this draft that Patrick Mahomes is going to bring more value than an average player at pick 48 would. And if that were to be the case, what else is probably going to happen? Those other receivers in Kansas City are probably going to bring more value than you would find with other options in their respective offenses. In their respective ranges. So it's not that we're stacking because it's best ball. I know that's a common narrative in redraft. It doesn't work. No, I promise you it works in both. You're supposed to do it in both. The reason we pulled best ball data is because that's where the money is. That's where the volume is. So that's where we can actually have macro level analysis. But here, going to be super simple. We need 2 wide receivers. We can't take DeAndre Hopkins because he's going to miss the first 6 weeks. And in a league like this, missing the first 6 weeks is going to be detrimental. We don't have the playoffs here. It's just who can score the most points through the regular season. And also because of that, I am going to be pushing down these rookies just slightly. Like, I definitely think that in a private draft, we are going to have to say lower the value of rookies compared to their ADP, and the same thing with those players that are going to miss the beginning portion of the season. So like we've discussed, in a league where the playoffs matter so damn much, I am completely fine going ahead and taking Chris Godwin at pick 61. However, in a league where we don't have that same incentive structure, where instead we are going to have to just try to score points starting week 1, points in week 1 matter just as much as points in week 17. There, I'm not as interested in DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not as interested in Drake London. I'm not as interested in Chris Godwin. Not as interested in Alvin Kamara. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, in those tournament-style drafts where we really need to worry about weeks 15, 16, and 17 production, very similar to your own fantasy football leagues, where obviously the fantasy football playoffs is the number one thing that matters. There, I'm actually sliding Russell Gage up the draft board at pick 69. Very excited. And Ryan has asked us what we think about his team a million times. I say this pretty much every single live stream at this point, but I'll say it again. We have very few rules in this live stream. You are able to go to the chat and you're able to say, Mason, you're ugly. Mason, you have no idea what you're talking about. Mason, nobody should ever listen to you. All those things may be true. All those things can be entirely true. You can be as mean to me as you want. I don't give a damn. But as soon as you start ruining the chat for other people by spamming your question over and over and over again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my dude. If you're ruining the chat for other people, you got to go for at least a second. Okay. Now, Brandon says, at the beginning of the 5th round, I have a choice between Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Jeudy. Who do I pick? Personally, I'm going to prefer Jerry Jeudy in that range. If I head over and look at my draft guide to let you know where these 3 wide receivers are drafted, like we just take Amari Cooper at pick 72. I'm fine with it. I don't love the Amari Cooper value. I have been primarily avoiding Amari Cooper, but he falls about 7 picks past his ADP here. I mean, I currently have Jerry Jeudy ranked at pick 54 in fantasy drafts. I have Amari Cooper ranked at 66, and I have Cortland Sutton ranked at 60. So I'd go Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, then Amari Cooper in that order. I honestly think you can probably find a better pick, however, at the beginning of the 5th. Derek says, Mason, are you doing another draft tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, I am flying out to Alaska I'm setting my alarm for 3 a.m. in the morning. The flight boards at like 5 a.m. So, I also haven't packed. I haven't packed because we've been recording videos and recording drafts. That way we have drafts coming out every single day we're gone. Videos coming out every single day we're gone. So probably not. How about this? I will be fair. We'll throw out a like goal. If we hit the like goal, we'll fire up another draft. But just keep in mind, because I should not get in another draft, it would be the dumbest thing for me to ever do. We're going to make it unrealistic. Had about 1,200 views on the live stream. We have almost 500 people in the live chat. If we get 400 likes on the live stream before this draft ends, which is very unrealistic, I'll let you know now, we're not getting that. But the reason I'm saying this is because I need to go pack to get ready to leave tomorrow. If we get 400 likes on another live stream, we'll fire up another one. Okay. So now Kareem Hunt goes pick 90. Now DeAndre Hopkins really falling. And I know that it may look dumb that DeAndre Hopkins has fallen this far past his ADP. But like I said, here points in weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They matter just as much as points in weeks 15, 16, and 17. So yes, Hopkins looks like a massive value. But in this format in particular, this is probably about where Hopkins should go. I don't think he should have even been in consideration for us at the very beginning of the 7th round. He goes pick 93. I mean, obviously at some point you're going to have to go ahead. You're going to have to take DeAndre Hopkins. We have Matthew Stafford going pick 94. Let's see what Rockbod goes with. I mean, obviously y'all know I want Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I can't sit here and throw a fit if he does take MVS because MVS has slid about 5 picks past his ADP. So I can't throw a fit if MVS is off the board. He only has 2 wide receivers as well. If I were him, I would personally go Marquez Valdes-Scantling, even though, of course, it would hurt us a little bit. He goes Chris Olave. Maybe he just throws us a bone here and is nice to us. Thank you, my man, for being so nice. We're going to go ahead. We are going to get that double stack with Patrick Mahomes here. We will take Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Sky Moore. So if we look at this, Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, David Montgomery at running back. Quarterback, we have Patrick Mahomes. A wide receiver, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore. Didn't even see Sky Moore down there. Now, looking at other running backs like Devin Singletary, like Rashad Penny, guys that will be starters at the very beginning of the season, but probably lose their jobs closer to the end. Those are guys that I'm going to be avoiding in a regular fantasy football league where, yes, you need to be worried about points for the fantasy football playoffs. But not as worried here. Not going to be as worried here, just given the fact that, like I said, points in weeks 1, 2, 3 matter so damn much. So if you want to take Devin Singletary to pick 98 here, I can't say anything bad about you taking Devin Singletary. Now here with this team in particular, I'm probably going to end up still drafting 6 running backs. I know we wouldn't do that in a tournament style draft where we're looking for that highest ceiling possible with the volatility of the wide receivers position in a best ball format. However, in this one, I do think it makes a little bit of sense. So Melvin Gordon goes at pick 103. Sam says, why should I take a lower quarterback just to stack instead of taking a higher value QB? My man, I don't know what you're talking about. A TP the Kid says, Mason, when do you consider stacking, quote unquote, overboard? This is a very good question because, I mean, you'll see actually some of the drafts I just recorded to come out in a couple days. Like we were sitting there and I have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, James Cook, and I'm going, do I really even need to get Jamison Crowder? In reality, what kind of edge am I getting by adding Jamison Crowder onto this build? We already are heavily invested in the Buffalo Bills offense. If Josh Allen does hit, yeah, it's more likely that we are going to get some spike weeks and we are going to get an overall hit from Stephon Diggs. Same thing with a running back that can catch passes like James Cook. I would say getting a double stack is fine. But once you start taking your 4th player from that same offense, you're going overboard. You're going overboard. Like once we take Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore here, I'm probably going to be done at wide receiver, at least for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like there'd be no reason for me to go ahead and to reach on Mecole Hardman at pick 120 or 121. Lane says earliest round you would take Rashad Penny. If you look at my 2022 fantasy football draft guide, I am pretty damn low on Rashad Penny. Like Rashad Penny is someone I was drafting some of. Like, let me see, because I have not drafted Rashad Penny in probably over a month. I legitimately probably haven't drafted Rashad Penny in over a month. Let me see how much Rashad Penny I have. Completed. Because I felt like I was drafting him some at the beginning of the offseason when his value was lower, but okay, I'm actually very excited to see this. We have 8% Rashad Penny, so we are in line with the market, at least regular exposures, but I haven't drafted him in a month. So that means we actually probably have a much lower cost on Penny than most. I figured we were only going to have like 2 or 3% Rashad Penny. But yeah, here at pick 92, I can't do it. If I'm looking at my rankings, I have Rashad Penny ranked behind Chase Edmonds, behind Devin Singletary, behind James Cook, behind Melvin Gordon. Like I have a lot of running backs here in this range, like even going in this round, ranked in front of Rashad Penny. And my issue is I completely understand Rashad Penny's probably going to be the starter week 1. But also at the same time, Rashad Penny has been one of the most injury-prone running backs through the entire NFL. His team just invested a top 60 draft pick with his replacement. And at the same time, PFF currently has the Seattle Seahawks as the worst offensive line in the NFL. Not only the worst offensive line in the NFL, but also we can assume that this team won't have too many trips to the red zone given the fact that they don't have a quarterback. Rashad Penny's not catching a lot of passes in the NFL despite coming out of San Diego State. He profiled as a running back that was going to be a great pass catcher. Just simply hasn't happened. Okay. So Kirk Cousins goes to pick a 116. Looks like Derek Carr has fallen a considerable amount. Who took Darren Waller? I thought Darren Waller went to one of these teams. Darren Waller went, okay, I guess pick 39 where they take Aaron Rodgers instead. Can't fault him. Michael Gallup's another example of a player that in a fantasy football league where you definitely need to be concerned about your production near the very end of the year for that fantasy football playoff stretch. I'm fine with Gallup. However, as we said, weeks 1, 2, and 3 matter just as much here. I'm letting the timer go down because we're taking Kenny Golladay no matter what. I guess we'll go ahead. We'll take Ronald Jones. I mean, we just talked about not wanting to just continuing to add on to these stacks. We already have heavily invested into the Kansas City Chiefs offense. But the difference is we're getting Rojo at a value. Reports coming out of Kansas City saying that don't be surprised if Ronald Jones is the starting running back at the beginning of the year. Now, I will say that's not going to happen. I definitely prefer Clyde Edwards-Helaire at his price point where CEH is falling to the end of the 8th round in some of these drafts. But we will go ahead. We'll take Rojo. It has nothing to do with us having Patrick Mahomes. It just has to do with the fact that I am completely fine with the value here. Okay. Baby Cal says, should Derek Carr be valued higher in his 6-point passing touchdown format? I actually really like talking about this. We wrote about this in our Dynasty research book, also available on flockfantasy.com. Like I said, coupon code FLOCK gets you a discount on anything on flockfantasy.com. But this offseason, we wrote a Dynasty research book, well over 100 pages as well. And we went into how to adjust in a 6-point passing touchdown format compared to a 4-point passing touchdown league. And the natural reaction a lot of people are going to have is, oh, well, what we should be doing is we should go ahead and we should just move quarterback value up the board, across the board. Like, no matter what quarterback you're taking in a 6-point passing touchdown format, he's going to be more valuable because he's going to score more points. And that's partially true. But what we need to be thinking about is we need to think about what kind of quarterbacks are going to be scoring more points. We need to look at, hell, is it going to be the Lamar Jacksons of the world? Is it going to be the Jalen Hurts of the world? Or, perfect example you just brought up, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and Aaron Rodgers. And how I adjust for that 6-point passing touchdown format is I am less likely to go and reach on guys that I typically love in a 4-point passing touchdown league, like Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Trey Lance, quarterbacks that have access to that elite level rushing ceiling, because quarterbacks that are going to be prototypical pocket passing options that don't provide you any rushing production, it's hard for them to make up for it with passing volume, even if they're hyper efficient. Perfect example is in 2019, Lamar Jackson outscored Peyton Manning's best season ever. Lamar Jackson in 2019 had more fantasy points than Peyton Manning when he threw for 5,500 passing yards and 55 passing touchdowns in a 4-point passing touchdown format. But if Stafford, say, throws 15 more passing touchdowns, that's unrealistic, but say he throws 12 more passing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson this season, their outpoint at the end of the year is going to be a lot closer. So if you're adjusting from a 4-point passing touchdown to a 6-point passing touchdown league, bump up those pocket passing quarterbacks. Bump up Derek Carr. Bump up Kirk Cousins. Bump up Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Tom Brady, Joe Burrow. And don't feel the need to, like I usually do, which I love these guys at their price point, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance. They are so valuable in a 4-point passing touchdown league because it doesn't even matter what those pocket passing options do. They just simply can't catch up to them in terms of their raw point output at the very end of the season. But in the 6-point passing touchdown league, those pocket passing options can. Okay. But let's move this down. We have Isaiah Spiller going off the board 136. Cole Kmet 137. Obviously, we need tight end help in this draft. We are going to go ahead. We're going to take 3 tight ends. So it's not the end of the world if we don't get someone that we want. I think we have a pretty solid draft overall. Now, if we're looking at quarterback targets that we could have a little bit later on, I'd be fine with a Daniel Jones to pair up with Kenny Golladay. Speaking of rushing upside, Daniel Jones does have some sneaky rushing upside in New York. Obviously, it's not the first thing you think of when you see Daniel Jones, when you hear the name Daniel Jones, but Daniel Jones can easily get to 350 rushing yards on a season. Daniel Jones can get to 6 rushing touchdowns on a season. Now, I'm no mathematician, but 350 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns is an additional 71 fantasy points. Now, like I said, I'm no mathematician, so this math is probably a little bit wrong, but 71 fantasy points, convert that over to passing yards. What? That's going to be an additional, call it 1,500, 1,600 passing yards just getting added on. Like, I actually really like Daniel Jones in fantasy this year. Okay, C. Lala says, who do you have higher, Waddle or Travis Etienne? Okay, so if you're going to go ahead, if you're going to draft on Underdog Fantasy, wide receivers are going to be pushed up ever so slightly, so I do think it's a very fair question to have. However, if you're going to look at our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, you will see that we do not have underdog rankings. We just have regular 2022 Fantasy Football rankings, and they're I'm going to prefer Travis Etienne over Jalen Waddle, where I am a little bit more comfortable sliding up those running backs compared to the wide receiver, just because we are going to be able to find fine wide receiver value a little bit later in our draft. But let's go ahead. Let's double tap the tight end position here. Get two guys that I do think that they can cycle through and have some touchdown upside. I'm actually fine drafting Albert O now that his price has come down a decent amount with the Greg Dulcich news coming out of camp saying the rookie tight end may actually be playing as the pass catcher, and Albert O is going to be playing more as the inline blocking tight end. But if you look at Albert O from a yards per route run perspective through the first 2 years of his NFL career, of course, especially his rookie season, it's a very small sample. But no Noah Fant, and he was hyper efficient through the past 2 seasons. So I'm going to be fine with that. Now, FM says, hey, Mason, what strategy do you use from picking at the 112 in a PPR format? My man, we've done probably 50 drafts on this live stream from the 112. Literally, you can find so many of our live streams drafting from the 112. Okay, next person to ask us what we think about the Allen Diggs stack at pick 10. You are not just going to be put in timeout. You're going to be straight up banned. You're going to be straight up banned. Okay. Now we have DJ Chark pick 151. Tyler Algier 150. Matthew says, how do I get in the next draft with you? My man, all you got to do is go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. And then subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out to these live streams right at the very beginning. When I send the link out, like this is a private draft only with people from the live stream. So when I send that link out at the very beginning of the live stream, you already set up. Press that link. You're in the draft with us. Now we have Keel Herbert, Tyrion Davis-Price at 153, 154. I prefer Tyrion Davis-Price in this range because with Herbert, I honestly don't think he will ever be able to go out there and play over David Montgomery, where Tyrion Davis-Price, it's in the cards. It's in the range of outcomes for him to have a large role in San Francisco this upcoming season, even with Elijah Mitchell there. And let me remind everyone, I'm sorry, but this will be our last draft on the stream unless we get 400 likes in the live stream. Now, if we get 400 likes in the live stream, I will go ahead. I'll fire up another one. Ben says, what is the buy-in for private drafts? So this private draft, very simple. It was just a $3 buy-in because we have been doing a lot of those tournament drafts on Underdog. So I know a lot of people are familiar with those, but I want to make sure that people are familiar and getting in the private drafts with us and have no issues with it. So over the next few weeks, we're probably just going to be doing the cheap ones. We'll be firing up some $3, $5 private drafts every single night. And once we get closer to the season, once we are into the preseason, y'all know, then we start firing up $100 private drafts every single night. And we'll start firing up some $250 tournament drafts as well. So now Trevor Lawrence goes pick 156. Lawrence fell a ton according to his ADP here. Let me know what y'all think of this Trevor Lawrence price point. I think it's reasonable. It is hard to assume that all of a sudden you are going to be getting Trevor Lawrence from going with the second to worst adjusted yards per pass attempt mark in the entire NFL to one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, despite Urban Meyer being removed from the situation, which obviously does make things a lot more exciting. But it is what it is. 156 is great value on Lawrence. And also to adjust to your regular redraft format, this is one question that we've had. A lot of people asking, oh, how do I go from my regular redraft league to Underdog and vice versa? How do I go from hopping in these Underdog drafts and getting the practice to going to my regular redraft format? They're so familiar and they're so similar as is. What I would say is you're not drafting these guys like Tua Tagovailoa. You're not drafting Trevor Lawrence. You're not drafting Matt Ryan in your regular one quarterback redraft league. Now, if I go to our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, like I said, this is going to be for your regular 2022 fantasy football draft. And if I pull up our top 150 rankings, you will see the last quarterback to be ranked, because I don't think you should really be drafting a backup QB in your regular one QB redraft format. And I only want to be taking players that I think have access to be every week starters for you. Beyond that, better off just streaming. 136, our last quarterback to be ranked is Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins, 135. I have a video coming out possibly tomorrow that will illustrate, in my opinion, the importance of grabbing a quarterback with an elite level ceiling this upcoming year. But, of course, be on the lookout for that. We are going to be taking a tight end here and then maybe going ahead and grabbing a quarterback as well. So if we're looking at things that make sense, Mac Jones is sitting at the top of ADP. At the same time, we did decide to draft Hunter Henry, so we would have the correlation with Mac Jones and Hunter Henry. If we're looking at other tight ends in this range, Cameron Brate is appealing to me. I know Cameron Brate's a little bit down here in ADP, but we are going to probably just take David Njoku and Mac Jones and be done at both quarterback as well as tight ends. And then from here, we are going to be slamming a couple more running backs and a couple more receivers. But we already have our 3 tight ends. We already have our 2 quarterbacks. And on a Patrick Mahomes build, I think we only need 2 QBs. Now, because this is a private draft, I honestly may go ahead and fire up a 3rd QB. But, of course, we would never do that in a tournament-style draft. Now, Matthew says, Mason, let's launch a 14-team league, $25, $50, and I got your buy-in. I just want to draft with you once. My man, I'm sorry. I just simply can't do it. I have to be very selective with the amount of leagues and what kind of leagues that I join at this point, because I am currently in almost 30 dynasty leagues. I host 30 dynasty leagues with the members of the flock. So for me to go ahead and to commit to another league where I have to do waivers, I have to submit a starting lineup every single week when I'm in 30 leagues plus. And keep in mind, during the season, I do 3-4 hour live streams every single night. I make multiple videos a day. I do a 4 or 5 hour live stream every Sunday morning. Do you know how hard it is to submit your starting lineups when you don't know what players are going to be in or out? It's so hard for me to add more leagues than I already have. That's why Underdog Fantasy Football, in my opinion, is perfect. You can focus in on those leagues that you really care about, those leagues that you really need to pay attention to during the season. However, it doesn't take up time from those leagues because, of course, it's a best ball format where your starting lineup is submitted for you at the end of every week, the best possible starting lineup, and at the same time, no waivers. So it's perfect for me. I'm going to be firing up these drafts every single night. If y'all want to hop in drafts with me, you can track your team next to our team throughout the entire season. You can see how bad you are beating me, but it's way too hard for me to find the time to fire up full real money fantasy football drafts that I have to take time on during the season. Lane says, so close, but so far to 400 likes. Like I said, my man, the reason we put 400 likes is I have to be up at 3 a.m. tomorrow, okay? And I have not packed yet. It would be idiotic for me to fire up another draft, but I'm a man of the people. I'm a man for the people. So now, Cameron Brate goes 179. Good for us. Like, the most idiotic thing we could ever do is take a 4th tight end, even though our 3 guys with Alberto, Hunter Henry, and David Njoku aren't necessarily the best. But, of course, these guys should be able to cycle through our starting lineup just fine. Now, if we are looking for wide receiver value a little bit later on, it's just tough because wide receivers in this range are so damn gross. Like, looking at this, Watson's also a quarterback you can't draft here. Like, in a tournament style draft, 100%, I'm going to be going through, I'm going to be taking a decent amount of Deshaun Watson if weeks 15, 16, and 17 are the only thing that matters. But in this draft, there's no way in hell you could ever consider in a million years to draft Deshaun Watson. Okay, Sean says, all right, Mason, give me your thoughts and analysis. I'm OBS destroyers. Go easy, though. I know my mistakes, LOL. But you can guess what POS I'm taking from here on out. Okay, and guess what position he's going with. Okay, let's look at OBS Destroyers. He is going to be selecting from pick 10. My man, of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock. OBS Destroyers got in a ton of drafts with us last offseason, obviously back here for some more. So thank you so much for everything you've done for us, my man. But Dalvin Cook, pick 10. Mike Evans, pick 15. Mike Evans is the perfect pick for this format if the beginning of the season is going to matter so damn much, because you're looking at Mike Evans as a player that could potentially, and I just mean potentially, be the wide receiver 1 overall through the first month of the season. Assuming you have no Chris Godwin back, then that's beautiful. Connor, Dobbins, Waller, Hurts, fine with the value. I really like all of that. Kadarius Toney at pick 82. Not a big Toney guy. I mean, I probably do prefer a couple of these other players, but it is what it is. That's just my personal preference. Dawson Knox. I know Dawson Knox has an ADP of 101 off the top of my head, so I know you're getting him past his ADP at 106. I'm still not going to be a big Dawson Knox guy. Aaron Rodgers, fine value. I like the Jarvis Landry, Jamison Crowder, Tyrion Davis-Price, Corey Davis, Kendrick Bourne, AJ Green. Yeah, I really like this team overall. I would say the Dawson Knox pick is not my favorite. I personally would go ahead. I would look to try to find someone else, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Now, let's move on. Try to find our next 2 picks, the 16-17 turn. Like I said, you can't take Watson here. Running back's going to be just fine. I think we go ahead, we take Brian Robinson. I like Brian Robinson's value. I like his upside in the case of an Antonio Gibson injury and the possibility for him to have a role this upcoming season almost regardless if Antonio Gibson fumbles the ball again. Dear God. We're going to go ahead. We'll take Will Fuller. We'll take Will Fuller, see what makes it to us in the last round. Now, it would be so easy for us to just grab another wide receiver here in the last rounds and not even think about it if this was that tournament draft where we were looking for the highest ceiling possible. But if we're trying to raise the floor that we are getting with this team every single week as well through the course of the season, a quarterback in the last round wouldn't be the worst thing. Dion coming out says, do you mind rating my team good and bad? I'm still learning. Fire, please. And thank you so much, my man, for being a part of the flock. Going to be happy to dive into this to you. I believe Dion was at pick 11. Let me find this. Yeah, Dion is at pick 11. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead. Let's look at this. Adams, Lamb, Michael Pittman through the first 3 rounds. I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Pittman in the world when Michael Pittman was going at the beginning of the 2nd round. But here at the end of the 3rd, I think that is definitely going to be a fine price point. Like I said, here at pick 38, Alvin Kamara, I love this value in a tournament-style draft, or if you have the fantasy football playoffs in weeks 15, 16, and 17 are pretty much everything. Here, with the possibility of suspension, I'm not going to be a big-time fan of Alvin Kamara at pick 38. We have Jacobs, 59, Elijah Mitchell, 62, Dak Prescott, 83 to get that stack there with CeeDee Lamb. The Damian Harris, 86. I am 100% taking Damian Harris over Clyde Edwards-Helaire personally. Tyler Boyd, 107. I like the Boyd value or Ramondre Stevenson. Personally, I'm going to go Cordell Patterson or James Cook over Ramondre Stevenson. I'm just not as big of a fan on these New England Patriots running backs because I feel like if there were to be an injury to either guy, it's not like the other player automatically steps into a 3-down role when they actually bring in some depth in this year's NFL draft. So yeah, looking at those 2 running backs, I'm not the biggest fan. I understand why someone else would be. Get Jalen Tolbert at a fine value if you're going to be looking at that double stack with Dak Prescott, Jahan Dotson there as well. Gerald Everett, Cameron Brate. I'm assuming that you're going to go with the tight end here on the turn. I think you definitely need to take a 3rd tight end. Let's see if you do. B-Boy says, any update on the Puppy 3? My man, I am sorry. We are probably not going to get a Puppy 3 for like a week or so, but keep in mind, I'm not nearly important enough for Underdog. Underdog Fantasy is a freaking massive company. I'm not important enough for them to tell me when they are launching the Puppy 3. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. Obviously, every puppy contest that they've launched this year, like they'll launch it and there'll be over 100,000 drafts in like a week. And I'm like, oh my dear God, I wanted this to last a little bit longer. I wanted to be able to hop in some more of these drafts, but a man only has so much time. Okay. So we have Chris Evans, pick 204. I'm personally never taking Chris Evans. I know his ADP is here. I understand it, but it is what it is. Also, Dion, like I said, very similar to the Alvin Kamara pick. In these private drafts, you have to remember there are no fantasy football playoffs. It's who can score the most points through the course of the regular season. Who could score the most points through the course of the regular season? So looking at, say, a Deshaun Watson selection at the 203, personally, I'm not going to be a big fan of that. That's just my preference. I would rather even take someone like even Marcus Mariota. I'd rather take over him, if we're going to be honest. Okay, now Mo Alley Cox goes at the 206. Now let's pull this over. And real quick question. and this is a serious question as well. How much of a loser do you have to be to go through and make it your night's mission to spam a question over and over and over again and create spam accounts to spam the same question over and over and over again in a live stream? Whatever's going on with your life, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're not having a good time. I hope whatever's wrong in your life turns around sometime soon. I hope you get things together, as I can't imagine what would have to be going wrong in mine for me to dedicate an entire night to just making spam accounts to spam a question about Josh Allen. Okay. So now we have CJ Uzomah picked 211. TP the Kid back up on the clock. I think we're going to go ahead. Honestly, the thing is, in this format, when it's just who can score the most points through the course of the regular season, how the hell does Bryan Edwards or Donovan Peoples-Jones, adding another wide receiver here, give us more than Davis Mills? Serious question. Now, ZL Bird on the clock. Let's see what they decide to do. Frank says, is there ever a chance I can get in those dynasty leagues if someone leaves? 100%. Yeah, 100%. We'll have dynasty leagues opening every offseason. Every offseason, you'll be able to hop in a league. We just started a new dynasty league over there on Locals. Okay, ZL Bird. Davis Mills. Okay, now they go Mills. Less inclined to go with a QB here. God, these people are really taking every second on this clock. We are 3 likes away from, oh dear God, let us make this pick before we get there. Let us make this pick before we get there. Oh dear God. Y'all hit the buzzer beater on us. We're going to have to get another draft. I'm not going to waste any time. Oh dear God. Let me fire this up. Oh God, this is bad. This is bad. I thought we had a 0% chance for that to happen. Okay. Let's get this going as fast as possible. Here's a $3 private draft. We're going to fire up another draft right now. Oh my God. Okay, if y'all are enjoying this content, if you enjoy the fact that I am probably now not going to get to sleep and I have a flight that I have to head to at 3 in the morning, I still have not. Oh my gosh, packed. Make sure you drop a like on the live stream. Oh dear God. I just spammed the link to our new draft in the chat over and over and over again. So I'm sure that this is going to get filled in about 5 seconds here. And if you were wondering, Mason, how do I join these drafts? Mason, are you going to do these drafts every single night till the season starts? Yes, and yes. We're doing these drafts every single night until the season starts. If you want to join, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK with the link in the description, and they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. With legitimately just a $10 deposit, you are going to get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Is there a better deal on planet Earth? You're getting paid to play fantasy football, paid to have fun. You're supporting this channel, and you're getting our draft guide on top of it. Underdog is that confident that you are going to love these drafts as much as every single person in this live stream is. And every single person in this live stream is probably already signed up to Underdog Fantasy. I am maybe talking to a total of 5 people out of the 500 people here right now that have not signed up yet. Okay. So looks like we're going to be picking at the 107. We have some crushers in this draft next to us. We're drafted right next to Post Dylan, someone that obviously has been a long-time member of the flock, a long-time member of the Dynasty flock, starting back last offseason. Now, Matt Gilbert, long time no see as well. King Henry, long time no see. We have a couple new names in here. Noah Shapiro, I believe, has been out here since last offseason as well. But it looks like, why not us, I believe, is a long-time member of the flock. I have a feeling that Jags fan is a new face. Copay is a new face, or Co-op Pay. I don't know how you say that. And Bardo is a new face. Matt Gilbert is a longtime member of the flock. M. Vanu Spree, I think they're a new face as well. Now we have Jonathan Taylor, CMC off the board through the first 2 picks. Guys, all I ask from you is if you're in this draft, let's get this going fast. Let's get this flying. When we're on the clock, I'm going to take 1 second. We're going to pull up that draft board. I've already done over 400 of these drafts, so we know who we want at this point. So I'm just going to take 1 second and get that guy off. I know, dear God, I'm making a massive mistake here. Justin Jefferson off the board at pick 4. Let's see, this Chase goes off at 5. We'll queue up our order. Ooh, not Eckler. There we go. This is who we want. Eckler goes, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to get Stephon Diggs. We talk about this every single draft. The reason we go Diggs here, not because I think Stephon Diggs is a better player or a better fantasy asset than Derrick Henry, than Najee Harris, than even Joe Mixon. It's because the running backs value that we'll have available to us later on. Can't pass up on the running backs later on. Have to be able to slam them in. Okay. So now we have Najee Harris, Derrick Henry at pick 8 and pick 9. Matthew coming out with a donation says, I got in. Thank you, my man. Let me see where you're picking. Are you, I'm assuming? No, you're M. Van Osprey. I was going to say, are you Matt Gilbert? No. Van Osprey. I think Osprey. I don't know. Y'all know I'm stupid. But Travis Kelce, CeeDee Lamb goes off the board here at the 1-2 turn. Very standard draft so far. I will say, it looks like Najee Harris is probably the player that has the largest range of outcomes with his overall draft selection, because I'll see Najee Harris go as early as pick 5, and I'll see Najee Harris go as late as pick 15. Outside of that, I feel like every other player that goes before pick 15 regularly, you know where they're going. There's never really too many surprises. Where, like I said, I mean, I've started drafts off with Derrick Henry and Najee Harris because Najee falls to the second round. I've started drafts off with Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris. Justin coming in with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, you're the man, Mason. I am in at the 104. Rooting for you, Justin. Thank you, of course, for being a part of the flock. Thank you for the support. Free Me says, if you get Najee at pick 15, you win. My man, I've gotten Najee Harris multiple times at pick 15 over the past week. Now, keep in mind, over the past week, I've probably done 100 of these fantasy football drafts. I've done 100 over underdog drafts. So it's not like it's happening all the time, but I've definitely had Najee Harris there a couple drafts. Now, with DeAndre Swift, I do think that the hype for Swift is a little bit overblown this year compared to what we had last year. Y'all know Swift, one of my most drafted players. I'm going to continue to say this. I do think Aaron Jones should go before DeAndre Swift. With Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift, in my opinion, they're the same player. This is what we were saying with Swift last year, and people were calling us stupid. I'm going to say it again this year. Neither of them are running backs that are going to get every touch out of the backfield. They're not Ezekiel Elliott in his prime. They're not Dalvin Cook in his prime. What they are they are the new age bell cow. They are the running backs that instead of getting every touch out of their backfield, they're going to sacrifice those carries between the 20-yard lines that don't translate to elite level fantasy production. They'll go, hell yeah, Jamal Williams, hell yeah, AJ Dillon. Y'all can soak up those 10 carries a game between the 20-yard lines, because 10 carries for 41 rushing yards, hell, we're giving you 4.1 fantasy points. But what I'm going to get, if I'm DeAndre Swift, if I'm Aaron Jones, is I'm going to get every target out of the backfield, where really that's where the money is made. Not only every target out of the backfield, but to separate yourself from the J.D. McKissicks of the world, from the Nyheim Hines of the world. You're also going to be getting every touch in the red zone. So every valuable touch in your offense, every high value touch in your offense. And that's what makes DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones so damn valuable. And on top of it, if I have to try to figure out who that next guy is, that next guy is Travis Etienne. And same profile that Alvin Kamara has. Alvin Kamara this past year actually was a bell cow, which was surprising. It was the first time since, he was drafted in 2017 that we ever saw that. But usually Alvin Kamara is very similar. Not getting every single touch out of the backfield, but getting every single valuable touch. We're going to go ahead. We take Stephon Diggs. We have to take Josh Allen in the third. If you take Stephon Diggs in the first, you take Josh Allen in the third. It's an auto pick. You don't even think about it. But going back to that Stephon Diggs selection, to just illustrate why I think we should be taking Stephon Diggs here over Derrick Henry, where Derrick Henry is the best value according to ADP, would you rather have the combination of, say, Derrick Henry and T. Higgins, or Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Swift? I personally feel in a non-PPR format, it would be different. But I do feel that there's going to be a larger gap between the two receivers than there will be at RB. So for that reason, I'm going to be fine taking Diggs. I do think that Stephon Diggs can be the wide receiver 1 overall this year. Okay, so Cheeky says, need to groom a guest host for these occasions. My man. You think a guest host would be smart enough to take Josh Allen here in the 3rd? You kidding me? Kidding me? Oliver says 500 likes for a 3rd draft. Guys, if I do a 3rd draft, I'm literally not even sleeping before my flight. At this point, y'all are going to make me essentially just get a quick 30-minute nap in before my flight. Now, I will say, 600 likes, maybe. No, I'm not putting that out there. I'm not putting that out there. Well, if we were to put a number out there for a 3rd draft, 650. We'll do 650. But the reason I'm putting that number out there, even though I said the same thing about 400 this last time, is I know for a fact we're not getting there. I know for a fact we're not. Now, we have Waddle 36, Connor 35. Now, if Kamara were to fall to us at pick 42, just to let y'all know where my headspace is at, where in these drafts, weeks 1, 2, and 3 matter just as much as weeks 15, 16, 17, as I've mentioned a million times now. I am not going to be drafting Alvin Kamara at pick 42. Not happening. If it was a tournament style, if we had the fantasy football playoffs where you're incentivized for those final 3 weeks, hell yes, I'm taking Kamara and I'm doing a little dance afterwards, celebrating with that Alvin Kamara value in the 4th round. But here where there's no fantasy football playoffs with the potential suspension, there's just simply no reason for us to take someone that could end up missing the first 6 weeks. Like, let me know, how long do y'all think Kamara ends up missing? Now Deontay Johnson goes pick 39. Let's move this down. Oh, you clowns, y'all are really going to let me have Courtland Sutton? You fools. You're going to allow the combination of Courtland Sutton and, like, my heart is being torn in two here. Literally. How are you supposed to make me choose between Courtland Sutton and Gabriel Davis? Like, how am I supposed to choose between these guys? I know Alvin Kamara's on the board. I know Ezekiel Elliott's on the board. I know Breece Hall's on the board. I know Cam Akers on the board. I know Justin Herbert's on the board. How am I supposed to choose between our two loves in Courtland Sutton, who usually goes in the 3rd round, and Gabriel Davis here, who's at his ADP, and we could even get the double stack with Allen and Stephon Diggs? Oh, y'all are tearing me apart. Now we're going to make a pick that I wouldn't make in a tournament-style draft. In a tournament-style draft, you go Kamara, easy, 100%. Or even in your regular fantasy football draft, if you go and look at my 2022 fantasy football rankings in our draft guide, of course, go get this draft guide. If you are enjoying these live streams every single night, flockfantasy.com. Use the coupon code FLOCK to get a discount. This draft guide, I promise you, it's going to help you a lot more than watching these drafts, even though these drafts will help. But if you're looking at where I have Ezekiel Elliott and Breece Hall, I currently have Elliott at pick 38 in our rankings, and we have Breece Hall right below there. I would even be convinced in a draft where you're prioritizing production in weeks 15, 16, and 17 to go Hall over Elliott. But no, not here. Here, when it's just total season points, we're going to take Ezekiel Elliott. And dear God, people are passing on Sutton. Of course, this is a draft with people part of the flock where, no, we are not drafting Sutton in the 3rd round. But let's see how far Sutton falls. Now, I'll say, I do have Courtland Sutton ranked as the top 24 wide receiver in my draft guide. Like, I'm not going to try to be unbiased here. Like, I currently have Courtland Sutton ranked at pick 60 in my draft guide. Like, there is a point where I do draft Sutton. There is a point. Okay. We have a donation question coming out. Thank you, my man. It says, can you make a video about the best teams you've drafted so far? It would be great to see what your benchmark for a great team would be. Interesting. I like the idea. I'll be in Alaska the next week, so we've already recorded all those videos today and yesterday. So maybe a little over a week, we can try to find a solid team to make that video about. But to be completely honest, well, yeah, I've done over 400 fantasy football drafts on Underdog. And yes, I can go and view every single draft. I would be surprised if I've ever drafted a good team. If I'm going to be just completely honest with you here. Like, yeah, I've drafted over 400 teams. Maybe we can just get lucky and somehow win one of those this season, win one of our 12-team leagues. But probably going to need a lot of luck because I don't know if we ever drafted a good team overall. Now, Darnell Mooney off the board. We will go ahead. We'll take DK Metcalf. I understand DK Metcalf in a very bad situation here, given the fact that you're looking at him as a wide receiver that is going to be playing with the worst offensive line in the NFL. Not good for someone that historically has a high average depth of target that needs time to get downfield, and at the same time should have some of the least efficient quarterback play in the NFL as well. Now, what I will say is his target share has gone from 20% to 23% to 26% on a per game basis over the past 3 years. So Metcalf is definitely emerging as one of the premier alpha X wide receivers that can just be completely dominant in his offense in the NFL. So getting him outside the top 24 wide receivers here will make sense for me. Cheeky Opson coming out says, TikTok is blowing up to come join this draft. Are you watching the ticker? My man, I do not know. I do not know what you're talking about. You're saying our TikTok is blowing up? Yes, I recently had to make a TikTok because this is a business. It's my job. If I'm not making a TikTok, I'm probably being an idiot. Okay, so we recently had to make one. We did have one pop off today. One we had went for like 420,000 views, but it was lucky for us. Okay, that's not happening very often. Are you saying that you think please, if there is a single person watching this live stream right now that found us from TikTok, which I'm not even telling you, don't go and follow my TikTok, guys. Don't do that. Don't do that. Trust me, you're going to learn way more on here than TikTok. TikTok's like 60 seconds. It's complete trash. But if there is a single person that found this live stream from TikTok, go to the comment section, go to the live chat right now. Let me know. We have 500 people here. I doubt a single person found us from TikTok. Baby Dragon coming out says, if I used code FLOCK on Underdog, do I get the draft guide for free? My man, yes. If you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, go and deposit $10 right now. Link in the chat. You get the draft guide for free. You get the 100% deposit match immediately. Here, 1 second. Sorry. Take Adam Thielen here in this format. League with Fantasy Football Playoffs, I go Godwin. But yeah, you get the 100% deposit match immediately. And then after that, what you're going to get about an hour after you sign up is a welcome email from Underdog with the account that you signed up with our 2022 draft guide from there. We have Tim coming out. Says, what's up, Mason? Hey, Tim. Hey, we may have another Austin meetup this year. If we have an Austin meetup this year, you better be on the lookout. I better see you there. Kadar says, thoughts on my team, Lamar, CMC, Swift, Hollywood, AJ Brown, Dawson Knox, and Saquon Barkley at the flex. It's a 10-team league. Thank you. No, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Looking at this, you have a top 3 quarterback, presumably, with Lamar Jackson. Love that. You have CMC, potentially the running back 1 overall. Assuming it's a PPR format, DeAndre Swift, probably a running back 1 this upcoming season. Saquon Barkley, a running back that had a 20% team target share, is last healthy season in New York. Another running back that can easily be a top 3 running back overall if he stays healthy. I really like the roster. I am personally not a Dawson Knox fan. I will say that I think Dawson Knox's season was propped up based on an unsustainable touchdown rate, but I'm fine with Knox there. Okay. So now, Eric says, I got the deposit match, never got the draft guide. My man, if you never got the draft guide, what I would do is I would search Underdog in your email. Maybe it went to your spam just because so many of those draft guides are being sent out every single day. And if you can't find it there, send me an email. You can find my email in the description. So just send me a message. Let me know the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with, and I will get that sorted out for you. It's Ralphie says, I found you from TikTok, my man. There's no freaking way. But regardless. Ballpark Memory says 500 likes for another draft question mark. My man, I said 650. We said 650 because I can't do another draft. I have to get up at 3 in the morning to go on a flight tomorrow. And I still haven't packed, like I said. Saram coming out with a, dear God, thank you, my man. Long time no see, says, man like Mason, hope you're doing well. at the 107 in a 12-team PPR format. Similar to you, I like going with Stephon Diggs at 7, then pick up decent running backs. Thoughts and curious to know your reasoning, because that is letting go of Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, Najee Harris, and Dalvin Cook. Okay, really easy. Let's address the wide receiver versus wide receiver here, because there it's just a player take. You don't even have to worry about the roster construction. If we are going to be looking at... 1 second. I apologize. 1 second. We're going to take Michael Thomas here. Tournament style draft. If we have fantasy football playoffs, we go DeAndre Hopkins. But here, we're going to go Thomas. But if we are going to look at Devontae Adams versus Stephon Diggs, I think Devontae Adams is a much better wide receiver overall, but at the same time, I'm not as large of a believer on Gabriel Davis as most people are. I think that Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow going to be some serious target competition in a passing offense that's going to be having less volume and efficiency overall compared to what we have in Buffalo. So I'm going to prefer Diggs over Devontae Adams in that fashion. And then looking at the running backs that we're passing up on with a Derrick Henry, with the Najee Harris to take Stephon Diggs. Like I said, I don't necessarily think that we can easily say, oh, Stephon Diggs is a better player in a vacuum than Najee Harris, than Derrick Henry, than even Dalvin Cook. But what I can say is I can look at the running backs that we are getting in round 2, and I can say, I know for a goddamn fact that I want DeAndre Swift over T. Higgins. I can look at, say, the running back in round 4. I know for a fact that I want Ezekiel Elliott over Gabriel Davis. So I think you could sit here and you can argue back and forth like, oh, do I want Stephon Diggs or Derrick Henry? I think that's a reasonable argument you can make. And if someone wants to tell me they want Derrick Henry, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, 100%. That makes sense to me. But if you try telling me you want T. Higgins over DeAndre Swift, if you try telling me you want Gabriel Davis over Ezekiel Elliott, oh, dear God, I'm going to be telling you you're taking crazy pills at that point. Okay. Jay Virtuous says, are you going to pick on in the flock 2? I'll go pick on the flock 2 right now. Usually I text JN, ask him what he wants, but we got so much going on right now. If JN hasn't texted me about that pick, I will go ahead. I'll make that selection. Yes, I am in the middle of a Dynasty startup draft as well. So, of course, y'all know I am going to still love me some Dynasty fantasy football. Let's scroll through. Probably not the best idea for me to make this pick so quick, but I guess we probably just end up taking Rondell Moore here. Let's go ahead. Let's take Rondell Moore at the 1209, right behind Malik Willis in our Dynasty startup. Okay. So now we have Brandon Ayuk, Kadarius Toney, Christian Kirk off the board. Probably a good thing we took Brandon Ayuk. What do we want? Do we take Tom Brady or MVS? We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Tom Brady. Yeah, we don't have a stack. I understand. We can get Cameron Brate later on. We can easily get Brate later on. And it's more that just the other players in this range, specifically from a skill positional standpoint, they're not moving the needle to me. I don't think that we are ever really going to be sitting here going, oh my gosh, this team would have been the best team ever if we would have taken Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like, yeah, we were very excited to take MVS to pick 96 in our last draft when we had Patrick Mahomes. It's a little bit of a different situation here. Matthew says, Mason, are you not worried about the latest notes on Brandon Ayuk that he was doing horrible in camp? My man, I'm not going to lie. I did not even see that with Ayuk. Let me pull this up. Maybe I've just been living under a rock. But let me look this up with Brandon Ayuk. Looked up Brandon Ayuk on Twitter. I do not see a single bad report about Brandon Ayuk. Was there something on RotoWorld? Please let me know in the chat. Have y'all heard that Brandon Ayuk was having a horrible camp? Where's this from? Okay, Brandon Ayuk, we're looking at all the recent reports. Bad practice reports are nothing new for Ayuk, who was benched by Kyle Shanahan and played limited snaps for the first 2 weeks last season. The third-year receiver struggled with drops and wasn't on the same page as second-year Trey Lance after the two spent time working over the offseason. No higher than the number 3 option in a run-heavy off. That doesn't matter what they said. Okay, so there's one bad report coming out. According to Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Who the hell is Jack Hammer from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. We need to be worried about his practice reports of Brent. No. Of course, it's going to be concerning based on what we had with Ayuk last year. Like you said in the report, that Ayuk did get benched at the beginning of the year. And definitely the snap rate, if you look at Ayuk through the first month of the season versus the rest of the year, was a night and day difference. So Ayuk is probably someone we need to be a little bit more worried about than most. I have no idea. Dylan coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, hey, I just got the draft guide, but will the draft guide be updated until the beginning of the offseason, like for injuries or roster moves, trades, etc.? Yeah, so if we do have, say, Deshaun Watson being suspended for the year or Alvin Kamara not being suspended at all, and we do have those rankings updates, all you're going to have to do is you're just going to have to send me an email, say, hey, Mason, purchase the draft guide with this. Can I get the new rankings? And yes, we will send you that updated version right away. But I know most people are going to say, Mason, you take Josh Allen here. You have Stephon Diggs. Let's set up the double stack. Let's go Allen, Diggs, and Dawson Knox. Even if Dawson Knox is the best player according to, I'm not going Dawson Knox here. I'm not doing it. We're instead going to get Robert Woods. I'm very excited about drafting Robert Woods at this pick. You're looking at Robert Woods as a player that's so far removed from that torn ACL that he's already practicing. He should be 100% good to go by week 1. So let's take Woods at the 103. And if we were to have Knox making it back to us at 114, we'd go with him then because we have Josh Allen. But I really just want to have my foot down saying, you know what? I'm not a fan of him this year. And I am so sorry that I have to do this to y'all, but I'm about to be up for about an hour and a half packing. So I'm probably going to have to cut the live stream here. It was so dumb for me to even have an hour 15 live stream today. But thank you so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. I truly appreciate all of y'all. And if you want to get in our next draft, we are doing this every single day until the season starts. The season doesn't start for like another 2 months. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free. And on top of it, with a $10 deposit, you're getting our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Almost 300 pages of very high quality information to help you dominate your drafts this season. You support this channel. You support our ability to live stream every single night nonstop for like 6 months at a time. But thank you. I appreciate all of you. I really hope you have a great night. And I will send you out a link for our free fantasy football group chat if you are wanting to join. Has over 6,000 members. You join if you want. If you don't want to join, don't really care. It's free. You don't need a credit card. You don't need an email. You don't need anything other than to click the link, choose a nickname, and start chatting, ask questions, ask trade questions, create leagues, whatever the hell you want to do. We just sent that out there. But thank you again, guys. I appreciate y'all.